maybe it was resolved, even though they hadn't found the boy, Tom, because there was no evidence that anything inside that balloon had been lost, or any doors opened, or anything like that. But now we're learning this very disturbing information that perhaps a basket or a box had been attached, and perhaps that little boy was in that basket or box.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, because, Wolf, there was no time, there certainly was no time in the video that I saw that there was anything except what we saw in most of the coverage. So let's look at where this all happened and give you a point of reference. Denver is over here. The Denver International Airport is over in this area, if you've flown in and out of there. Up here is where Fort Collins is. And in fact, we mentioned earlier, Abby was talking about how these people were interested in storm chasing. This is actually one of the most popular places in the country for that, Wolf, because there's a tremendous amount of tornadic activity out here. This is Fort Collins proper. As you move out onto the Great Plains, there's a tremendous amount of it. In fact, one of the big concerns when they built the Denver International Airport was, in fact, that there was such a likelihood of tornadoes in that area. Nonetheless, you can see that to the west, big mountains in here. If anything goes down in here, it is much, much harder to find. Out here, it's easier, although, again, you must be talking about something quite small, because when we look at this over here, you can see that this is the starting area in Fort Collins. This thing was not moving very fast as far as we can tell. Seemed to vary in height anywhere from the various reports we heard from anywhere from 5,000 feet. They must be talking about above the level of the ground here, because the level of the ground here is about 5,000 feet, up to 7,500 or 8,000 feet, something like that, all in this area here. And then it seems as if it came down somewhere out in this general area. So the question, Wolf, is, again, as we were asking earlier, how much lift did this thing have? There's a serious question whether or not you could even get off the ground with something of the size we're talking about, with a 50-pound boy involved. Everything you add to a balloon, if you put a box here of any sort that could have contained him, adds more weight to it. So again, the question becomes, did this ever have the lift to lift the boy and this box, get airborne, and for him to be lost that way?
And the suspicion now is that there was some sort of box or basket attached, and perhaps that little boy was inside, but the box or the basket fell off at some point, whether early on or later,
right,
and that the search is on.
And I must say that Chad hit on something earlier that I was struck by, too. At one point when we were watching this thing, it seemed, and it's very hard to tell, you know, looking through a TV camera like that, it did seem to gain a lot of altitude. But in the process of that, it never changed appearance, Wolf. There was never a sense that something was on it here, cut loose, and then it took off. It just seemed at one point to go a lot higher and then to fluctuate back down. And at that time of day, you can have very dramatic temperature changes which could make it behave that way.
What about a gust of wind, too?
Yeah, you could have it, but from what Chad was saying earlier, I don't think there was any indication of a lot of wild activity, although certainly along the front range of the Colorado Rockies here, that's always a possibility. So that may have been nothing but the behavior of a balloon floating free, and they can do a lot of things on any kind of gust of wind that comes that way. So we have an idea of the map, where they were, we have an idea of where they have to be looking, and certainly we have an idea that if this was gaining altitude the way it was described earlier, at about the speed of a Ferris wheel, if this started going up at that speed, you know, very quickly, you're talking about in a matter of minutes being 500, 1,000 feet off the ground, something like that. So the window of opportunity, if this boy was ever on board, in which he would have survived a fall, frankly, is quite small. It's very limited here in a very short period of time. So I guess we'll find out, Wolf.
So they're going to, obviously, first and foremost, they're going to search the neighborhood right now, the subdivision in Fort Collins, Colorado, to see if there are any boxes. They got a big search ahead of them. And as Gene Meserve said, they've got helicopters flying overhead right now.
And as you know, many of the neighborhoods up in places like Fort Collins, there can be many places where they have heavy grasses, heavy trees, heavy things, where, again, to go back to one of our earlier ideas, where this boy could also be hiding if he were simply troubled.
We
but
can
of
only
course,
hope
we're all troubled right now over the question of what has happened.
We can only hope that little boy is hiding someplace he'll be found safe, because if he were in that box, you know, we don't know what happened to the box or the basket that may have been attached to the bottom of that hot air, that balloon. And this is video that we recorded earlier, courtesy of our affiliate KUSA.
Yeah,
and as you say, it went on for about 2 hours.
Yeah, about 2.5 hours of flying. And I never saw it at any point that it looked anything other than that. You know, with the flat bottom on it, just like we have this sort of mushroom shape. with a flat bottom, nothing attached to the bottom, no doors attached.
And that's when it landed. It made that very smooth landing in that dirt field. And a lot of us were surprised that there wasn't an immediate rush to try to go inside and see if that little boy was inside. But obviously those who were on the scene were aware that there was nothing inside, but maybe there was a box that was missing. I mean, that helps explain that mystery that I felt early on when you see they're walking around. They're not actually trying to go inside and look for a little boy yet.
Yeah, I was struck by the same thing, Wolf. The minute we saw that, I mean, having been on a lot of searches on other things, the primary concern is obviously with any potential victims. So obviously they knew at that point that that's not what was happening. So now the mystery goes on.
I wanted to go back to Gene Meserve, our Homeland Security correspondent. Gene, give us some context on the nature of this search that's underway right now.
Well, we heard earlier from the Larimer County Sheriff's spokesman that there's a heavy search going on the ground around the neighborhood where this boy lived on the chance that he never got on board this balloon. I believe the statement was that they had 20 officers on the ground scouring, as well as patrol vehicles out and around. In addition, the Colorado Army National Guard has said that it had one helicopter in the air. Another was going up shortly. They told me they were concentrating their search around Weld County, and one of those helicopters does have night vision capability, and they'll be expanding the search, not just around Weld County, but expanding it along the entire flight path that they believe this Mylar balloon took this afternoon.
So Wolf? There's a massive search underway for this little boy. This is the Weld County Airport. You can see this map here up on our screen where this search apparently is underway. Tom, as we look at this, and you can only, hearts go out to that family, the family of that little 6-year-old boy, Falcon. You can only imagine what they must be going through right now.
Oh yeah, it's a horrible thought, Wolf. And this is, Gene was mentioning Weld County. This is Weld County here. And I must say, depending on where you live in the country, I think one thing that's worth bearing in mind is the scope of the West. Counties out west are really enormous. As a point of reference, I always say to people, if you picked up Montana and dropped it down, one end would be on Chicago and the other on Washington, D.C. So you get an idea of how big a county like this can be. This is an enormous amount of area over here, the same over here in Larimer County, where Fort Collins is. So even if they're flying over, this is quite a search area. And from your experience, the other thing that you may not know at home, looking down from a helicopter, trying to spot something on the ground, even as big as you or I, Wolf, is actually unbelievably hard, because every little shadow, every change in the topography jumps right out at you, and it's very hard to separate things. And the later in the day you get, the more you get these sharp shadows coming in off the mountains, and sunset comes much earlier there because of the mountains. This area will be in darkness earlier than you might expect, and that will raise the difficulty of any search if they haven't found this young man by that time.
Yeah, we're not talking about an airplane that they're searching for. We're talking about a basket, or a little box where a little boy might have gone in.
Even when they search for, I've been on searches where they've been looking for a downed aircraft, which may be as big as this room. And many times the searchers will go over the area many times before they can spot it, because it's very difficult to do from the air. And again, I want to impress upon you, this is a huge area of land. It's not like an eastern county where you can get from one side to the other in 20 minutes. This is a much, much bigger area of land in both cases.
And this search is underway right now. If in fact there was a box or a basket attached, my gut instinct tells me it probably fell off earlier in this runaway of this balloon than perhaps later. But that's
it's hard to say.
Purely a guess.
And of course, we don't have any good tracking of specifically where this thing went early on. All we know is that it started flying, and we have some accounts from the ground of people saying, I saw it pass over a given area. But when you don't know how high something is, as you know, Wolf, you may see it pass over, you may be off by as much as a half mile and think you're seeing it right over some house, when in fact it may be quite different.
We have a guest on the phone with us, Kevin Knapp, who's a corporate balloon pilot. You fly these balloons around, Kevin. Give us, you've been watching this unfold for the last few hours. Give us your assessment.
Yes, sir. I fly hot air balloons. I'm also qualified as a gas pilot. We fly the big helium balloons in the America's Challenge gas balloon race. And this, it looks like a home-built balloon. Initially, when I saw it, I couldn't tell the size of it, but looking at the balloon when it compared to the authorities there to catch it. I knew that it could not carry the weight of a small boy. As it's being reported now, there was a basket attached to it at one time, and I would be assuming, like everybody else, that the weight of the basket separated itself from the balloon, and we were following the balloon for over an hour, like everybody else.
When would that happen, most likely, based on your experience, when that basket could have separated itself for whatever reason from the balloon?
It would probably happen soon after the launch. Again, not knowing the characteristics of the balloon, just looking at the size from the television, not knowing the weight of the boy, it would have to happen early into the flight.
But based on the dimensions of this balloon, the helium that might have been inside, how much it could lift, assuming the boy weighed 50 pounds and the basket was a few more pounds, obviously, is it reasonable to think that balloon could have run away, just taken off, escaped the tether with a basket containing a little boy?
Potential. Looking at the size of the balloon, and another pilot friend who's been on commentary earlier, they did some calculations, and Craig Kennedy could probably carry 100, 120 pounds-ish. Again, not knowing how the basket was attached. This is a home built. It's not like the balloons that we fly that carry passengers, but it works under the same principle. You get the lighter than air gas inside, in this case helium, and it's going to go into the sky.
So it's theoretically, at least based on the dimensions you're seeing, it's possible that 100 pounds could have been lifted by this balloon.
It is possible, and again, not knowing how the basket was attached, and or whether if it was attached when it launched, when exactly, it would probably be early into the flight that it separated.
That was my assumption as well. Tom Foreman is here with us. Kevin, he's got a question that he wants to ask you as well. Tom.
Yeah, Kevin, it does have to do this question of lift on something like this, because the kind of flight we're talking about here with this thing flying around like that, obviously it can't be doing that with much of a burden just by watching the nature of its flight. So even if you have it at these limits of its lifting capacity, which we would presume it would be based on the size of it, is it going to take off at the same speed that it would if it had a lot of lifting power at that point, or is it going to go up quite gradually?
No, it would go up quite gradually. What you're seeing in the sky is without the weight. I would assume with weight of the basket and the young boy in it, the balloon would be distorted and more shaped like a balloon instead of a flying saucer that you're seeing.
But if it's on the limit of its lifting power, if you're saying this balloon is having to carry this box on the bottom, and we have a 6-year-old boy, so we're guessing around anywhere from 40 to 50 pounds. I think the average 6-year-old weight is like 46 pounds, something like this. Even if the box is a 15-pound box or so, then you start talking about a much more gradual ascent to begin with.
Yes, sir.
Any idea how when we talk about gradual, what we're talking about? Earlier, the description was like a Ferris wheel, which can be fairly rapid.
Well, in a typical gas balloon flight, we get buoyant before we launch, which means we're at equilibrium. And we control our ascent by the amount of ballast that we let out. And it could be a gradual ascent, or if we let a lot of ballast out, we could go up a couple hundred of feet per minute. In this case, without letting ballast out, just releasing the balloon, I would assume it would be a couple hundred feet per minute launch.
Okay.
Yeah, and were you surprised at all, Kevin, that this balloon stayed in the air for more than 2 hours as it ran away?
Oh, no, not at all. In a typical gas balloon flight with a 1,000 cubic meter balloon, we could be in the air for 3 or 4 days at a time.
And when we saw that steep ascent, at one point it really took off and went up. What could have been the cause of that?
That could have been thermal, a pocket of hot air rising with the weather. You saw clouds building in the area. The balloon responds to temperature and wind. If it's in a pocket of warmer air, it's going to ascend at a pretty fast pace.
Because there was some speculation if the basket had been detached at that moment, we would have seen a steep ascent like that as well. Was that theoretically possible?
It is, yes.
Let me ask you one other question about this, if I can. These are the same types of balloons, helium balloons or gas balloons, that were used for some of the early experiments back in, what, the 1960s, where they'd fly actually to the edge of the stratosphere, if I'm correct, but much bigger versions of this. Why do you believe this balloon ultimately seems to have leveled out and then come down? Do you think it was simply not that full to begin with, or would that more indicate that it simply wasn't a very well-sealed system?
I'm guessing somebody mentioned a door on the side. I can't see it in the bottom part of the envelope there. Like air has or gas has escaped in the later pictures when it's partially deflated. It just didn't have enough lift for the weight of the Mylar.
And so it had to be losing some throughout the flight to come back down,
Yes, sir.
because if it weren't losing any, it would have stayed up, absent
Sure.
some kind of huge downdraft.
Kevin Knapp is joining us on the phone. He's a corporate balloon pilot who's an authority on this subject. Hold on for a second. I want to bring in our Chad Myers, because he's got a question for you, Kevin. But let me just recap for viewers who might just be tuning in right now. There's been a new development, a potentially very significant and very disturbing development in the search for a missing 6-year-old boy who had been believed to be aboard that runaway balloon, but when it landed in a dirt field, there was no sign of any boy on board. Only within the last 15-20 minutes have the Associated Press, KUSA, other news organizations reported that there had been a basket attached to that balloon, and that one of the little boy's brothers saw little 6-year-old Falcon go into that basket as the tether was released and the balloon took off. And now they're searching for the basket, because when they found the balloon, there was no sign of any basket or box that could have contained that basket. There's no sign of that basket. They're looking for the basket. Frederica Whitfield, Chad, hold on for a second, is getting some more information. Fred, what are you picking up?
Right. As they look for that basket, now new information we're just learning. One of the sheriff's deputies from Weld County apparently is reportedly telling his or her people, that indeed he actually saw some kind of object fall from that balloon at some point. And now apparently they are going to be looking specifically just east of Platteville, because from a very great distance, this person is saying they actually saw something fall, possibly that basket, that box that we've been talking about that is attached to those pieces that investigators did at least see at the bottom of that balloon. They are looking for that basket, and now we're hearing, according to one of the sheriff's deputies from Weld County, that they did indeed see some sort of object that may have fallen from that balloon there just east of Platteville. So you heard G. Meserve reporting earlier that a lot of her sources are telling her that they are going to redirect themselves and look at the path of the traveling path of that balloon. Now they're going to zero in on this area just east of Platteville to see if indeed they can find anything that might resemble this box that may have been attached to this balloon, Wolf.
Did they give any information, Fred, on the altitude where the balloon was when this basket or box may have been detached?
If that has been conveyed from one of those sheriff's deputies, it has not been conveyed to us as yet. We're not really sure exactly what kind of altitude, if this was at the low end of that balloon in its ascent, or perhaps if this was a peak point.
Yeah, well, that's an important question that we'll try to get an answer to. Fred, stand by. Chad Myers is here. He's got a question for Kevin Knapp, who's a corporate balloon pilot himself. Go ahead, Chad.
Wolf, this actually comes from all the meteorologists here in Atlanta. They all want to know all these calculations about lift and all that. Is that for sea level, or do you recalculate that for 5,000 feet above sea level where this balloon actually started?
I think the calculations are for where you launch and for how much weight that it's carrying. If we're planning a typical gas balloon flight, you count the weight of the balloon itself, the weight of the basket, the weight of your passengers, and everything else that you're carrying. And I think Craig Kennedy and pilots there in Albuquerque, New Mexico, calculated for about 5,000 feet.
I think I want to just go to another guest. Stand by for a moment. Kevin, Chad, I want everyone to stand by because Lieutenant Colonel Mark Riccardi is joining us right now on the phone. He's the acting director of military support for the Colorado National Guard. You've been watching this very closely, Colonel. Tell us what you're doing to support this search operation.
Yes, good afternoon, sir. Currently, the Colorado National Guard is assisting in support of search and rescue efforts as directed by the Weld County Sheriff, and we're doing that right now with an Army helicopter that is flying along the flight path. That's a UH-60 out of Buckley Air Force Base, and we are currently doing an aerial search right now.
So you have one helicopter on the scene looking, have you been told to look specifically for a basket or a box that may contain this little boy?
We have been told just to look for anything that may have come out of the aircraft, so our pilots are looking for anything along the flight path that might possibly not have to be, should not be there.
So, but the working assumption is that at least one of the boy's brothers said that there was a basket or box attached, and he saw the little 6-year-old Falcon go inside that basket. So I assume that's the major thrust of this search and rescue operation, trying to find that box.
Well, we're unsure exactly of that information. We're working with the Weld County Sheriff to look for anything along the flight path.
And do you have night vision capability, your helicopter from the Colorado National Guard?
The helicopters do, yes, but currently in Colorado, it's still daylight, so they do not have to employ that yet.
Colonel Tom Foreman is here. He's got a question for you as well, Tom.
Colonel, can you give me an idea of the type of search area you're looking at right now? What sort of range you're talking about? We're looking at a map right now of Fort Collins all the way down to Denver.
It's currently a search area in and around the flight path and the boy's home. I could not give you an accurate estimation of the exact distance, but it is a pretty good sized area. But that aircraft can cover a large amount of distance.
When you say a pretty good, Colonel, without going too far with this, when you say a pretty good sized area, do you mean more like several football fields or more like a couple of miles?
A couple of miles.
And so basically, Colonel, the major part of the search is near the Fort Collins area, or is it closer to Denver International Airport where this balloon eventually landed?
It's along the entire flight path from Fort Collins area where the balloon left down to the Denver International Airport area, and again, searching that flight path.
We've been going through the video, all of the video. Colonel and Chad Myers is watching all of this. Gene Meserve is watching, Tom Foreman. And we're getting ready to show our viewers. It appears something has been detached from the balloon. We're going to show you that in a moment as soon as we get that ready. And I want everyone, if they're near a TV screen, to watch, and we can better appreciate what this might be. We don't have the video yet ready, Colonel, but I think we'll see if this is specifically what you've been tasked, you and the Colorado National Guard have been tasked with your helicopter searching this area to find. We're going to get that video for you ready momentarily. Once it is, Colonel, I want you to watch it. And I know Kevin Knapp, who's a corporate balloon pilot, he's still with us as well. We'll all watch it very, very closely to see what it was. By the way, the video that we're going to be showing you is actually a still picture of the balloon, the runaway balloon, and something seems to have been detached. We're going to get that picture for you ready right now. We don't know what it is, what seems to have been detached. There it is right there. Now take a close look, Tom, and everyone else. You can see the hot air balloon up there and something below. There's a dot there, and obviously it's unclear what that could be. It could be anything. It could be something that was detached from the hot air balloon. But go ahead, and obviously we know where this picture was taken, Colonel. What does that say to you, if anything, as someone who's in charge of this search and rescue operation?
Well, unfortunately, it doesn't say much. We can't see the video where I'm at right now, but from what you've described, it doesn't provide us much. We are taking our direction from the Weld County Sheriff. We will be working with them, and again, looking for anything unusual along the flight path. And I'm unsure exactly of what the video is showing right now.
Well, it's not video, it's a still picture basically showing the runaway balloon, and then just below it, there's a dark spot, which may be something that was detached from the balloon, maybe not. But, you know, we know this area where we got it, so we'll be able to determine precisely the location. Maybe you can dispatch your helicopter to that area. Tom, you have it here on the screen.
Now we can look at it a little bit closer here, Wolf. This is obviously the balloon up here. You can't tell anything about distance here, so there's really no gauging the distance from this to this because we don't know how far away these are. But you see, if we move in closer, I mean, this is definitely something that's there. I mean, this could be a speck on the lens, but it doesn't look like it because it's in the same sort of focal range as the others. When you zoom it out, you can see that this splats out about the same as this one does down here, which suggests that it's not something on the lens, Wolf. And we also have this that I wanted to show you very briefly. This is an aerial of the neighborhood. This is not a very good resolution.
The Fort Collins,
photograph.
Colorado neighborhood.
Exactly. It's not a very good resolution photograph of the area, but you can see that there's a good number of houses back in here. This isn't that isolated. So presumably, if something fell off right in here, you're not out in the wilds, as in on a rural home, where it would be very hard for someone to have noticed something like that. So again, right now, you're right, Wolf. This is a very intriguing photograph.
Yeah, and the photographer who took that picture didn't notice that dot there until she got home and saw the picture, and all of a sudden she realized, you know, well, maybe this is related to that missing basket or box or whatever it was that they're now searching for out in Colorado. So it's an intriguing element, and certainly certainly something interesting. By the way, we're also being told, Tom, that this picture was taken about 35 miles from where the deputy also suggests that he saw something fall from this balloon.
You're saying 35 miles from, what does that mean? 35 miles from the house?
35 miles from, there's a deputy who said, I believe I saw something fall, and 35 miles away is where this picture was taken. So we don't know what, if anything, this means.
Sure.
Obviously, we're looking at all the evidence there and all these little clues, because this is a desperate search underway for little 6-year-old Falcon.
Well, we also don't. I have to tell you, Wolf, we also don't know. I will say this part of the Front Range, there are always like a tremendous number of geese and all sorts of birds. At this distance, you can see how much the image is degraded here. We just don't know. It could simply be a bird flying by. You're right, you don't notice when you're taking the big picture, but later on you see it. In fact, you can't really tell anything here. I wonder if there's a little smearing over here, which would indicate something else going on over here. But nonetheless, you're right. We don't know anything other than this is a dot down below this.
Yeah. All right. Let me just recap for our viewers who might just be tuning in right now. A search underway for a little 6-year-old boy who was believed to have been aboard this runaway balloon. Now the authorities are suggesting that there may have been a basket or box attached to the balloon. Once the balloon made a safe landing in about more than 2 hours while it was in flight, made a safe landing in a dirt field near Denver International Airport. There was no basket, no box, no boy on board. So they're searching right now for this missing basket or box, and there's a massive search and rescue operation underway right now, even as we speak. A few hours of daylight left in Colorado, Rocky Mountain time, before it starts getting dark. Our affiliate, KUSA, caught up with a friend of this little missing a boy, a contemporary, another little boy. Let's watch the tape.
Tell me how you're feeling right now, knowing that maybe your friend is in danger.
I'm feeling a little jumpy right now, so.
Jumpy how? Can you explain to me what it's like to not know whether he's okay or not?
Well, it's just my heart's kind of jumping every once in a while when there's any news flash on TV, so.
And what are you hoping happens?
I'm hoping that Falcon's okay.
Because he's a friend of yours, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. So are you going to take off and you're going to go help out? Try to explain what you hope you can do today to help your friend.
I actually don't know. Just.
What are some of the places that you're going to look for your friend?
Maybe out in the big fields over along.
What did Falcon tell you about these balloons the family worked on?
He hasn't told me anything.
Do you ever see him working on it?
Huh? No.
No?
He's
Okay.
just come over to our house. I haven't been over here yet.
What do you think about this happening to your friend?
I don't know.
How did you learn about it, and what did you think?
I learned about it because we were out and about, and my mom got a call from my dad, who got a call from Miami, and that's how I figured it out. And my mom
Pretty
told
scary?
me. Yeah.
Did you see any of it on TV?
Huh? No, not until we got home.
But did you see any of the pictures of the little balloon being chased by the helicopters and
Yeah,
stuff?
I saw some of them.
What did you think when you saw that?
I thought it was kind of amazing.
Okay. But scary at the same time? Are you going to look for Falcon, your friend?
Yeah.
All right, so that's it. A little friend of that missing 6-year-old boy, Falcon. The massive search underway right now, and that's a picture that we got courtesy of the photographer Elisa Eklund. We don't know what that speck is below the balloon, but there is a suspicion that there was a basket or a box that was attached, may have contained little Falcon. They're searching for this basket or box right now. The little boy is still missing. There's a massive search and rescue operation underway right now in between the little boy's home in Fort Collins and Denver International Airport, where this balloon eventually made a soft landing in the dirt not far from the airport. Dick Napinski is joining us now. He's a spokesman for Experimental Aircraft Association. What do you think, Dick, about what possibly could have happened here? I don't think we have Dick Napinski on the phone. We'll try to reconnect with him, and we'll get his sense of what's going on. Tom Foreman is here with us. Chad Myers is here. Gene Meserve. We're watching this story very closely. The Colorado National Guard has a search and rescue operation underway as well. Tom, as we watch this story unfold, it becomes increasingly more worrisome as it gets darker and darker, even though this helicopter that's searching does have night vision equipment.
Sure, and it's 3:30 in Colorado right now, so they've got some time before it's going to get dark out there. I was just in Colorado 2 weeks ago, and I think it was getting dark around 6:30 maybe, so maybe they have 3 more hours. But again, these mountains over here cast quite a shadow over onto the plains, and so sundown comes earlier than you would expect because the sun starts dropping behind these. These are huge 14,000-foot peaks as you move into this area. One of the things I've been thinking about, Wolf, is this, we talk about the search area. We had it drawn up here earlier. I can bring it up and show you again. This is the search area we're talking about roughly.
This is the boy's home here in Fort Collins.
Yeah, this is where he is. We're told that the search area is maybe a couple miles wide, something like that, all the way from here to roughly where it landed. We don't know that this was the real flight pattern, but this is where it wound up. We know it had to go somewhere in this vicinity. So if they're searching through here, I guess the other question, Wolf, is if we're talking about the zone where there's a lot of, where there's potentially some good hope here, it's got to be right in this area, because I was looking a moment ago at this. We were talking about this balloon rising at the rate of a Ferris wheel, or even if it were heavily burdened and barely able to lift, which seems to be the consensus, rising at a rate of 100 feet or so a minute. Well, you're very quickly, I mean, you're in very, very short order getting beyond the limits of what anybody would have much hope at if they released from this thing. It would have to be really in the very beginning stages here, because we're talking about this thing having risen at some points to, and we keep getting conflicting amounts here, but anywhere from 5,000 to 8,000 feet, something like that. I can't remember the exact numbers right now, but this would have happened fairly rapidly. So really, the zone that we're interested in is very close here, and frankly, when we look at that search map and the picture we had of the neighborhood he lived in, you're talking about a very limited area, Wolf. The only way it would not be a limited area is if this came up and it was so heavily burdened that it came up and just skimmed, barely flying for a period of time before that box cut loose, and then it shot up and gained altitude. But the truth is, we just don't know right now. And that was in a neighborhood where, if the release happened there are enough houses around there, presumably somebody would know something.
I think we've reconnected with Dick Dupinski, spokesman for Experimental Aircraft Association. Dick, I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly. Give us your assessment of what looks like happened.
Well, it is very interesting, and I know you used the word intriguing before, Wolf, and I think that's maybe the best description of what we've seen so far this afternoon. The big questions we have, it first of all does not appear that this aerial vehicle had any kind of markings that showed it was a registered home-built balloon or anything like that, where it would usually be in the FAA category of experimental aircraft, even lighter than aircraft, where the balloons would be categorized. And so we don't know if it was intended to be a flying machine, if it was intended to be a project that maybe got loose somehow, or if it was just something that was intended to be tethered to the ground at all times, and for some reason something went wrong at that point. So those are some of the questions. Until we know more about the backstory, I think everybody that has mentioned things so far is exactly correct. There are many things we just don't know about this.
It looks like everybody says it's a homemade balloon. What do you make of the material that was used? How sophisticated of a balloon was this?
I haven't heard a lot about the material so far, whether it's a mylar, or plastic, some kind of tarping, whatever it happened to be. So, once more is known about that. Certainly, if it was a helium-type envelope, it would have the capability of rising fairly quickly, as one of your guests had mentioned. So it was something that certainly could be a project where it was intended to be tethered and go to several hundred feet and maybe come back down. But again, the people who built it would probably have to answer those questions.
As you look at the lessons that we should all learn from this incident right now, it's very disturbing because there's a little 6-year-old boy who's still missing right now, may or may not have been in a basket or box that was attached to the bottom of this balloon. Let's start drawing some lessons. I don't think it's too early to start drawing some lessons, what folks should be thinking about right now, Dick.
Well, I think, first of all, the lessons we have to draw from it come from whatever we discover what this happens to be. What was the intended use of the project? Certainly, there are rules and regulations that fall upon home-built balloons, just as home-built aircraft. And they have to be inspected, they have to be maintained, and they have to have airworthiness certificates. Everything that we could see from it so far, Wolf, indicated that it really had nothing like that. So that leads to the questions whether it was ever intended to be a flying vehicle of any sort.
Yeah, as we watch these pictures, they're so dramatic, and we can only imagine what it was like if, in fact, there was a basket or a box attached. And there are reports, Dick, as you know, that one of the little boy's brothers saw the Falcon go into that basket or box just as it began to lift, and that's obviously a very worrisome situation because, as you see here, once that balloon landed in that dirt field, there was no sign of any box or basket, no sign of Falcon either. Tom Foreman has a question for you, Dick. He's here covering this story as well. Tom.
Yeah, let me ask you this, Dick, if I can. When we talk about the overall range of this thing, this is a map showing where people say they saw something possibly fall off. Talking about Fort Collins up here down to Platteville, which I remember and I have been told also is about 30 miles in this distance here. By the time you reach someplace like Platteville with a balloon like this flying 30 miles, certainly there's no question that at this point it was at some of the limit of how far it was going to go up, I guess, because it would have been in the air for at least an hour at this point, correct?
It would be. Helium devices can fly for some time, not knowing exactly what the envelope of this flying device was, which became a balloon and was flying across the sky. How long that the helium or whatever gas that helped move it through the air could be contained in there. Naturally, some helium devices will stay up for hours at a time, and hot air balloons, of course, have control devices as well. But this is very unusual, out of the ordinary, and I think that's the one thing that we have to go back and say: what was the original intent of this project? Was it ever meant actually to fly, or did it somehow get away from those who might have built it?
Based on everything we know, Dick, this was just a homemade experiment. The father was just working on it, and obviously it got out of control one way or another earlier today when it just took off from the family's backyard, apparently. Dick, Kevin Knapp is still with us. He's a corporate balloon pilot as well. You listened to this conversation. Kevin, you saw that intriguing photograph that was taken near Platteville, not far from Denver, between Fort Collins and Denver. You know, when you saw that little speck, that little that dark spot below the balloon, what did you think, Kevin?
Well, if I can't, again, like everybody else, I can't describe what it could be, whether it's a speck on the camera lens or something actually falling from the balloon, et cetera. But one of the things I would look at is the shape of the balloon. Again, we're looking up at it from the ground, but it appears to be more flat and shaped like a flying saucer than it is in any other of the video that's been shown on television so far. And to me, as a pilot, that would indicate a loss of weight and the pressure of the air on top of the balloon as it goes up at a faster rate, compressing the balloon to a flatter flying saucer shape. So that it could be a good indication that it's lost weight at that point. I would, direct search and rescue in that area, keeping in mind, too, the speed of the wind from that point and forward motion, continued forward motion of the basket. If it was the basket that fell, it would not come straight down. It would continue moving forward until it actually hit the ground. So if
it were a bird, that speck below that balloon in that still photograph, Kevin, if it were a bird, would that show up like that, given how small those birds are?
From the photograph of the tree and the size of the balloon in the picture, it would have to be a pretty large bird if it were a bird.
Yeah, that was my assumption as well. It's something bigger than a bird, but we obviously don't know. It could just be some dirt on the lens of the camera, or on the other hand, it could be a basket or a little box that may have detached from that balloon, because there's a massive search underway. The assumption is that the little boy was inside that basket or box that was attached to the balloon, but somehow that basket or box was detached, and they're looking for that box right now, even as we speak, and there's a massive search and rescue operation underway. The National Guard of Colorado has dispatched a helicopter to the region as well. But as you say, we know where that photograph was taken. They could direct that search and rescue operation to go there to find out, to see if there's anything on the ground near there. All right, so Kevin, thanks very much for your expertise. Peter Goals is joining us now, formerly of the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, and a friend of ours here in the Situation Room. Peter, we've been looking, we've been speculating, and we've been bringing in experts to help us better appreciate what's going on. You understand the situation. What do you think?
I think it is an awful tough afternoon for that family. I mean, the NTSB can help figure out the trajectory of an object that fell. They'll be able to find whatever fell from the plane, I think, relatively quickly.
Yeah, and, if in fact something did fall from
that's right. If in fact it was
from the balloon.
Yeah, and the NTSB investigates both home-built accidents and balloon accidents. So they've got people trained in both. So they'll take a hard look at this event today, and they'll probably have some recommendations on it.
It's just it looks like sort of a homemade flying saucer, but it is a balloon, and I believe a helium balloon, a gas balloon that's been flying around like that. But would you say the NTSB, under normal circumstances, would immediately launch an investigation?
Well, I think, no, under normal circumstances, they probably would not. They would probably let the FAA take a look at it, and they probably wouldn't send it. But given the high-profile nature of this event, I think it's important to find out what happened. People are going to want to know, and the NTSB will, they'll be able to figure out what the sequence of events was. But boy, this is just tough if it is true that this poor boy was in the box.
Yeah,
fell.
tough indeed. Stand by, Peter. Patrick Love is on the phone with us. He's the Public Information Officer in Larimer County for one of the fire authorities there. He's in the Joint Information Center at the Larimer County Sheriff's Office. What can you tell us about this?
Good afternoon, Wolf. What I can tell you, some things that have probably already been covered. This originally was reported to Larimer County Sheriff's Office at 11:30 this morning, and we have some conflicting reports, and we're still trying to confirm as far as when and at what time the child may have gotten into the balloon. Right now, we have Larimer County Search and Rescue searching from the house where the balloon came from, and that search is continuing to the east of the house. Now, that will involve both Larimer and parts of Weld County, which is directly east of Larimer County. We're also getting search and rescue personnel in news helicopters so they can do as much as they can from the air also.
So, Patrick, just to recap, you believe it took off from Fort Collins, from the neighborhood where this family lived, around 11:30 a.m. local time. That's Rocky Mountain time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. What time did it eventually land in that dirt field?
Wolf, I believe it landed in the dirt field at approximately 1:30 Mountain Standard Time.
So it was a 2-hour flight that this balloon was up in the air?
That's correct.
And do you have any evidence that during the course of those 2 hours, a basket or a box was detached from that balloon that perhaps contained little 6-year-old Falcon?
We have not been able to confirm those reports.
Did any eyewitness, any brother, say that to authorities, that there was a basket or a box, and he saw Falcon go into that basket or box?
You know, Wolf, also we cannot confirm that at this time. We have numerous people who are working the scene and trying to gain as much intelligence as quickly as possible. So we are, again, having as many people as we can throw at this as we can get.
And what has the family, if you can share with us, the parents, the other brothers, the siblings, the other relatives who may have been there, or neighbors or friends, what have they said based on what happened? Just if you could walk us through this tragedy.
Unfortunately, Wolf, I do not have that information right now.
You don't? All right. Well, I think Tom Foreman may have a question for you, but go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, Patrick, could you describe again for me the search area you're looking at right now? Because I was thinking that it actually headed a little more southeast from Fort Collins from the house, but you're talking about going directly east over toward Weld County. Is that correct?
That is correct, Tom. And we're also still trying to confirm the route of the balloon. And so we are going to keep that search area as wide as possible right now. And as far as being around the house, I can give you a couple county roads that we have, or we are including in our search. Larimer County Road 34 and Larimer County Road 11. Okay. And again, that is in the southeastern portion of Fort Collins.
And how wide would you describe the search area? Earlier we had a fellow from the military describe it as maybe a couple miles wide, I believe is how he's describing it. Is that about right? You know, I cannot confirm that right now either, but I would say that's pretty darn accurate. Okay. And do you have yet a good feeling on what the actual flight pattern of this thing was? Because you're talking about a direct east path. Earlier, it seemed like it might have been more of a southeast pass. We're talking about people saying they think they saw something down around Platteville, which would certainly be southeast, almost directly southeast, and then it ends up a little bit further out on the plains.
Well, you know, Tom, it all depended on the wind at the height that the balloon was at that time. So I'm sure it took a number of different geographical paths depending on the height it was up in the air because of the wind currents. And in a general direction, yes, it did eventually go southeast.
And how do you reconstruct that now? Because I'm very curious about this. Are you doing that through radar or through eyewitnesses or a little bit of both? And where are you in that process?
Well, unfortunately, from what I understand, they could not track this from radar for some reason. I don't know the technological aspects of that. However, mostly what we can, or what we have to go on now, is eyewitness reports, not only from the ground, but also from the news helicopters that were flying around or near the balloon at the time.
And this final touchdown point where this landed, can you tell me exactly where that is? It's near Platteville, but it seems like it's a little bit more out toward the reservoir.
You know, I do not have that in front of me right now. I apologize for that, but that's the best I can describe it right now is near Platteville.
Mm-hmm. And is there any, when you talk about the focus of this, you were talking about an area that's up near Fort Collins, near the house. I would guess that's really the chief focus right now, not so much further down range where, admittedly, we don't really know where this balloon was anyway.
That is correct.
Okay.
Patrick Love is a public information officer out there involved in this search. We're going to continue our coverage of this story for all of our viewers, including we're learning more information about the family, about this little boy, much more of our breaking news coverage right after this.
In America, we don't just dream when we sleep. We dream 24/7. We dream with our sleeves rolled up. Our dreams are expressed in digits. They're made of steel. Add those dreams up, that's free enterprise. Growing our economy for the long run. It's what we need to grow 20 million new jobs in the next 10 years. Your dreams make the difference. American free enterprise. It's you. So dream big.
This is Maggie, a very smart little girl. And this is a seat from the 7-passenger Toyota Highlander.
This is a little seat. I'm a big girl.
This is the 8-passenger Chevy Traverse, which offers more room and it gets an EPA estimated 24 highway.
That's a big girl car.
A very smart little girl.
The Chevy Traverse, America's best crossover. Introducing the 60-day satisfaction guarantee. Buy a new Chevy, and if you don't love it, we'll take it back.
It is not easy trying to feed a family of 7. So we have to be very conscious of how we spend and the decisions that we make. In my work, I assist people with making their homes more efficient and thereby cutting their energy costs. A lot of people have to make decisions of whether to pay the utilities or buy a meal. If the energy costs were to increase, it would be very devastating for them. We need coal to make it more affordable to do everyday consuming. Low-cost coal is very important, not only for today, but also for tomorrow.
Sharing. That's video on the Human Network. Cisco, welcome to the Human Network.
Your loved one goes into cardiac arrest. What if you had the power to stop the clock?
Another day cheating death. CNN Saturday and Sunday night, 8 Eastern.
Times are changing, and America's economy is changing with them. Have you watched the national debt climb with no end in sight? Big government is spending taxpayers' money at a record pace, and your financial future could be at risk. That's why conservative investors are turning to gold. At Merit Financial, we've been helping Americans protect their hard-earned wealth with gold and silver investments for almost a quarter century. We guarantee every piece of gold we sell is inspected to ensure the highest quality. We guarantee to beat any advertised price on the products we offer. And we guarantee shipment from our office in 3 business days on in-stock products. That's why thousands of new investors contact Merit Financial every month to learn more about conservative gold investments for these uncertain times. We can help, but you have to make the call. Call 866-PURE-GOLD now for your free investment guide and learn how to get started. Our expert staff is standing by, so call 866-PURE-GOLD. Remember the merit guarantee, the right gold at the right price, right away.
Soledad O'Brien reports Latino in America, next Wednesday and Thursday night, 9 Eastern.
Search is underway for a 6-year-old boy who's missing as a result of this balloon that simply took off from his backyard. There's a picture of the balloon for some 2 hours. The balloon was flying around Colorado, between Fort Collins, Colorado, eventually landing safely, smoothly in a dirt field near Denver International Airport, but no boy on board. There's a search underway for a basket or a box that may have been attached to the bottom of the balloon, and there's some suspicion that little boy was on board inside that box. The box may have gone away. This is a still photo that was taken of the balloon, and you see a speck below the balloon. Some suspicion perhaps that's the box or the basket, or it could be something totally random like some birds flying in the area, but that photograph was taken by Lisa Eklund. Ray Johnson is joining us on the phone right now. He's a former U.S. Army instructor pilot. He also knows a lot about night visual equipment and goggles. It's going to be dark fairly soon, Ray, in Colorado. How good is this night vision equipment that may or may not be able to find a box or a basket that was attached to this balloon?
The technology on the night vision equipment that we have now is tremendous. However, a good search pattern has to be established, but the equipment is phenomenal.
Even if it's a small little box or basket, because we know over the years there have been massive searches underway for missing planes that have taken a long time to find wreckage, for example. You think that this kind of equipment might be able to detect a little basket or a box?
Absolutely, sir. The only limitation the equipment has, and we're talking about the FLIR, which is a forward-looking infrared, the only limitation that it does have, it cannot see through vegetation, such as if there's a lot of leaves on the trees up there, it cannot see through the trees to pick that signature up, and it does pick up a heat signature.
So you can find out, you get a lot of useful information from the air, but in the end, a ground search and rescue operation may be essential. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, sir. Actually, a coordinated ground search, but again, you got to remember they're going to cover a large area. But a good coordinated ground search with an air search can be tremendous in finding this little boy.
And I assume that's what's happening right now. Tom Foreman is covering this with us. I want him to ask you a question as well, Ray.
Sure. I want to ask you a little bit about that ground area in this area, this area, and I want to show this to our viewers before we start this. This is where the house is, south of Fort Collins. We were told a short while ago that the primary search area is generally right now aimed out this way. This is Larimer County. This is Weld County over here, maybe a couple of miles wide. But now I want to show you what's in that area. If you look a little bit more closely, if we pull this map over, this is the neighborhood where it all began. In south of Fort Collins, where it all began. You can see this whole area, so pretty dense housing in there, not terribly dense, but suburban housing. But this is, when you look at this search area right here, this is a closer satellite image of precisely what we're talking about. This is the house area up in here, and as you can see, it spreads out. And I guess my question to you is, when I'm looking here, I see a lot of housing areas, I see golf courses, I see ponds, I see open fields, I also see limited woodland, as you would see on the plains, but nonetheless, all of that ground clutter complicates things, I would think.
Yes, sir, it does. The ground clutter does make it a little bit hard, because you don't know if you're going to be picking up animals, which again, the heat signature would pick up an animal, and then again, you would have to have the ground crew, the coordinated search with the ground people to go in and check that area out. But you got to remember, the air search can cover a lot of area if they have a good search pattern, and that's the thing.
And that seems to be the issue right now, because we don't know exactly where this airplane or this balloon went, which makes it difficult to narrow that pattern. I know you're right about that, because I've been on searches. We also have reports of it going all the way down to Platteville, for example, where some people say they believe something may have fallen off at that point.
That still photograph we saw was near Platteville.
So by the time you go from Fort Collins down to Platteville, and you start spreading out in a cone shape because we don't know how far south or north it is, I would guess, and for searching purposes, that's where it really gets very, very complex because of what you said earlier. Your search area is just so big.
Yes, that's correct. You know, that weather balloon, or the balloon that we're talking about with that small child, can go a tremendous amount of distance and everything, and there's just no telling, you know, where he dropped off or where he fell off. But again, the best thing to do is get that good coordinated search pattern and just look and look, kind of looking for a needle in a haystack. It can be done. But again, you know, you're going to need, you know, a ground team and some good search dogs too would be a tremendous help.
Ray Johnson is a former Army instructor, pilot, helping